What is your favorite useless fact? Movie trailers used to be shown after the movie, hence the name trailer. Before the golf tee was invented, golfers would carry around little bags of sand and make a mound to place their balls on. Little piles of sand. Despite their size, blue whales cannot swallow an object wider than a beach ball. The average cruising altitude of a commercial airliner is about 35,000 feet. The deepest point of the Mariana Trench is about 36,000 feet. The next time you see an airplane in the sky, imagine water going up to that point, and that's what it would feel like to be at the bottom of the ocean. Source: me, terrified of deep water. A second is called a second because it is the second division of the hour by 60, the first division being a minute. It's weird that minute was not called first then. The scientific name for the western lowland gorilla is gorilla. They occasionally find lions dead from starvation in Africa. Not from a failure to hunt their prey, but because an ostrich kicked them in the jaw and broke it, rendering them unable to eat. Till if I'm running from a lion, all I have to do is find an ostrich to kick it in the jaw for me. Helicopter is made up of helico, meaning spiral, and pter, meaning wings. Not heli and copter as you would expect. That's where pterodactyl comes from. Yep, the pterodactyl is a direct descendant of the helicopterodactyl. Edit, removed a typo which turned this into a terrifying rotating flying lizard that is on fire. Edit 2. It was a heliocopterodactyl, which is just terrifying. Stonehenge, the world's most famous henge, isn't a real henge. A henge is a Neolithic earthworks, consisting of a central circular or ovoid flat plane, often including wooden or stone structures, and bordered by an embankment with an internal ditch. Stonehenge has the bank and ditch positions reversed, so whilst it is very hengy in appearance, it doesn't quite the official definition. Now to get weirder, the oldest known usage of the word henge is in reference to Stonehenge, so all actual henges are named after Stonehenge, but Stonehenge isn't a henge. Male ladybugs can mate with a dead female ladybug for up to 4 hours before realizing something is wrong. To be fair, it's not always that obvious. Dolphins have their own names, and their names are spoken by a whistle. The original Hulk was grey, but due to ink problems, Hulk became green. A giraffe can run faster than a horse and retain water longer than a camel. Doesn't seem that useless to me though, because I've forced it into many conversations. Giraffes sleep less than 30 minutes a day and in no longer than 5 minutes at a time. Kind of amplifies the craziness of the facts you supplied. Edit, there are a lot of odd/interesting giraffe facts I didn't know about. Seriously, look through the comments. O_O. Butterflies will drink blood given the opportunity. They fucking love the stuff too. It's like candy to them. I once saw a butterfly crawl out of the butthole of a dead armadillo. There are carrion butterflies. I discovered this when I saw multiple butterflies on a dead raccoon. It's a form of mud puddling which is seeking nutrients from sources that aren't normally food for them. Giant sloths are the only reason avocados exist today. The Lestodon is the direct ancestor of today's sloth and were one of the few megafauna able to digest large avo seeds. The avos were eaten and then the seeds pooped out, and thus avocado trees were spread throughout South America. The great sloth has been extinct for greater than 13,000 years, but luckily the spread that did happen meant that avos survived long enough till us humans discovered and cultivated them again. Coyotes tiptoe when they want to be quiet, it's adorable. New York City is a little more to the south than Rome is. In fact, most of Europe is around the latitude of Canada. My hometown in northern Germany is as north as the south end of the Hudson Bay, but luckily not that cold. Most toilets flush in E-flat. The duck-billed platypus is so strange looking that when the man who discovered it sent a taxidermied specimen back to the Royal Society in London, he was accused of sticking a bunch of different animals together to claim a new discovery. The femur is the strongest bone in the human body and can support up to 30 times the average human body weight. Also, pound for pound, human bone is 5 times stronger than steel. We should make our buildings out of dead people. Gilded Edit, thank you so much, kind stranger. You've given me my first bit of gold. 2 facts. 1. There is a moth larvae that releases pheromones to sneak into ant colonies and metamorphoses in the hatchery, excreting more pheromones that make the ants treat it like their own. 2. There is a wasp, from hell, that is basically the twisted version of this. It can somehow detect which colonies contain these cocoons from above ground. They then release their own pheromones that causes the ants to go apeshit and kill each other. During the chaos, the wasp goes into the hatchery and impregnates the cocoon. Later, when the cocoon breaks, a hellspawn wasp emerges instead of a moth. What's insane is that this happened naturally through evolution between these 3 species. You could fit all of the other planets in between the Earth and the Moon. Doesn't seem right, but true. Always reminds me of just how much space is really out there. Please don't though. It'll go badly for all of us. Wombat poo comes out in cubes. The unicorn is the national animal of Scotland. There exists a planet inhabited entirely by robots. Mars. There are 31 million calories in a gallon of gasoline. If you shrunk the solar system down so that the sun was at the top of your head and the orbit of Pluto was at your feet, Uranus would be right about where you'd expect it to be. Beavers potty train their young, and sometimes after they move out of their parents' basement, the parents will come downstream and help the youngster build his dam so that he can attract a mate. And they will even come years later sometimes. It's nice when parents give a damn. There are 3 golf balls on the moon. Seahorses are some of the most effective ocean predators, as 95% of their hunts are successful. Elephants can move their skin to crush mosquitoes between their rolls of skin. Horses can't throw up. If they do, they're close to death. Useless information for me. The Stegosaurus is as ancient to the Triceratops as the Triceratops is to us. An ostrich's eye is bigger than his brain. Tasmanian devils got their name due to their howling. Early European settlers heard them howl during the night and thought it was the devil coming for them. Liechtenstein is the world's largest producer of false teeth. Brazil requires all customs documentation to be filled out in blue ink. Blue makes it easier to assume the document is not a photocopy. Keeping your rubber bands in the fridge will make them last longer. BMWs have turn signals. Tapirs have a prehensile penis similar to an arm, and it's longer than they are. It directly puts semen in the cervix. The barnacle is an animal with the biggest penis length to size ratio. All the swans in England belong to the Queen. Only 3 people in history have been to the deepest point in the ocean. One of them also directed the 2 highest grossing films in history. Netflix spent $0 on marketing its DVD rental business in 2014, but over 6 million people still used it. The butter knife was invented in medieval France to stop the lords from stabbing each other with knives at dinners and feasts. Wayne Gretzky was so good so consistently, even if he never scored a single goal, he would still have the most points in an NHL career. Every Syrian hamster, your typical pet store one, comes from a single pair in Syria that was bred in captivity. They are very resilient to endogamy and their genome is almost identical, which is why they are used a lot in labs. Kansas City, Missouri, never enforced prohibition. which means while it was a federal law, all through the 20s and 30s you could walk into any bar and sit next to a cop and order a drink. That place really loves their beer. Catfish are the only animals that naturally have an odd number of whiskers. If Project Manhattan had fallen behind or wasn't working, the US had a working plan to drop giant bombs of artificially hibernated bats with nitroglycerin bombs on their backs over Japan. They would float down just before dawn, slowly warming up out of hibernation, then fly out of the contraption. When the sun came up, they would go hide in the roofs of all the buildings, which were wood in 1940s Japan. Then, the bombs would go off, Tokyo would burn to the ground. They tested it outside of a base in Texas, New Mexico, and it worked perfectly, other than the fact that they miscalculated the wind and the bats flew back to the base instead of the small fake town they built, and burned down the flight line. The first car to have a cup holder was a Dodge Caravan. There are more homosexual giraffes than there are heterosexual ones. You can get arrested for whale fishing in Nebraska. Bulls get aroused watching another bull mount a cow. But they get more aroused watching two females mount each other. Wolves love lesbian norp. Koalas leave fingerprints so much like humans that they're sometimes collected as evidence at crime scenes. What's your favorite useless fact? Leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.